Hello everybody, this is Juntas. Today we are finally going to take a look at the Zealot Paladin. One of the most popular videos I have on my channel is actually a Zealot Paladin way back from 2015. Since then I haven't really done a video for the build. Today we will take an in-depth look at a Zealot Paladin. Hopefully this one can also be just as good as the last Javison build I did. I am definitely pushing it towards the best ultimate gear that you can get, and it's going to be mainly for PvM. Right then, let's just get to it. Don't want to make the stats and builds too long, because we have some gear options where we need to go over and this will take quite a while. So then I had an idea for kind of just doing it old style, kind of back when I did the Zealot Paladin in 2015. I wanted to start off with the stats first. It's not going to take too long, but as always, time descriptions are gonna be below, and you can kind of just click around if you don't really need to know about everything, because the gear will mainly be the longest session to get through. So the stats up here are kind of simple. The main part I wanted to discuss is of course attack rating. I needed 10,000 attack rating. It was incredibly hard to get it without extreme gear budget, or maybe using like an angelic ring or something. That is an option which I will talk about later. But basically stats are all about getting 10,000 attack rating. You can go with like 8,000 attack rating, that's also fine. But I feel like below 8,000 is gonna suck ass. And since this is the ultimate PvM Zealot build, we are gonna get a 10,000 attack rating, and that was the aim that I managed to reach. Some other things I could also mention is really good resistance. That is helped a lot by the shield base, which I will cover later. You wanted at least 2,000 life before battle orders if you were gonna use a call to arms, or in general just have 2,000 life always. And then of course dexterity, just get max block. That was actually pretty easy to get. I can't really remember how many points I was putting into dexterity, but I was also putting extra points into dexterity just for getting attack rating, which yeah, that's a thing I had to do, but I can live with it. So we are easily able to cap max block. And then enough strength just to kind of wear the, I think it was actually just the the Enigma Archon plate or the Gulliam's face. So you don't really need a lot of strength. However, strength also gives you damage, and that is why I put remaining points into strength after I gotten 10,000 attack rating. Because that's the thing here, you don't need that much vitality for life or whatever, since you're so overgeared, you're so overpowered. Yeah, you don't need more than 2,000 life, so remaining points went into strength for me. And I think that's about it for the stats. I could also mention a really quick thing with mana. I'm of course using the Wizard Spike and Spirit Shield and Switch for teleport with my Enigma, which means I'm able to get pretty decent mana while teleporting, so it's not really an issue. So then let's also take a look at skills. It's pretty simple as always. A Zealot Paladin doesn't really have a lot of things to put into it, but we will cover it anyways. Holy Shield, you of course max in this one. I would actually say this is one of the first abilities you should max. Zeal and Sacrifice, not that important to max early on, but it does help. Zeal should be maxed first, and then Fanatism is of course maxed. It's very important that you get Fanatism to at least 25. I think you can maybe go to 23, 24, depending on your gear setup. This is for getting max attack speed, but you definitely do need some plus skills on this build to make Fanatism go over 20. Because without slow attack speed, your Merc is even gonna attack and kill stuff before you. That's kind of the thing. So yeah, Fanatism is very important to get at least 24. And then Salvation, Redemption, Vigor, all these hours here, they're optional. I think it's just good to always have Salvation, Redemption, etc. going, just for kind of like a fun little setup. Vigor is also kind of cool in like Chaos runs, etc., where you might not teleport all the time, but you can still switch to Vigor to run a bit faster in between packs. And then remaining points, or again depending on the build, Defiance. We actually get like 500 to 800 defense per point into Defiance, so it helps out a lot. I could also mention a fun little thing that I did a while ago. I made a max defense paladin build. You can feel free to see that video if you want to. It was basically just exploring the highest possible defense in Diablo 2 on a paladin, and Defiance helps a lot in that regard, so it's definitely worth putting as many points or even maxing it as you can. but that's about it. I don't want to consider anything else, like all these other hours here. It's just not really worth it. If you were maybe only doing it for Ubers or something like that, you could perhaps put more points into resist lightning, resist fire, for getting maximum resistance, so you could get like 95 plus to fire resistance if you wanted to, but it's not really important. But that's it for the skills, nothing more to say than that. So before we cover the gear, I also wanted to get the Merc Chant out of the way. Obviously, since this is a melee build, we have to use a Reaver's Toll. It's important that you try to get it as an ethereal, because that makes the maximum damage that much higher. You should also get a Gulliam's Face and a Treasury. The Treasury should also be in like a low defense base with light base and runs faster and it gets more hits. You don't want like a Hellforge plate or something that makes the Merc Chant have more defense. That means for shorter games the Fate proc is gonna, it's gonna be up less, etc. You really just want the Merc Chant to not have too high a defense, so the Fate proc is up easier. That's kinda important, I would actually say. Yeah, but besides that, it's really just get those stupid increased attack speed duels and enhanced damage. They can be very expensive and hard to get, but they make the build that much better. So let's move on with the actually important part, the gear. I'm starting off here with the stash, slow and easy. So bases first, we are going with a Phoniex Sacred Charge. The other shield is going to be an Exile Vortex. I want to kind of talk about shield bases a bit here. The Vortex shield comes with the highest possible defense on Paladin bases shields, but it also comes with, I believe, one of the lowest chance to block. So basically the Exile shield is for getting crazy amounts of defense, and the Sacred Charge is getting for very high amount of block but low amount of defense. So for like a Hammer Paladin builds, etc., that doesn't really need, a lot of defense, Sacred Charge is always going to be default the best. It's also going to be default the best for a Phoniex Sacred Charge in this case. So we are going with the Sacred Charge on the Phoniex and an Exile Vortex Shield on the Exile for best possible defense. Because I believe like an Exile that's made in a Sacred Charge, etc., they will only get like 800 defense or something like. So getting 1000 plus defense on this shield here, just because we get another base than Sacred Charge, is a huge bonus. So yeah, I wanted to get that shield debate out of the way. As always, you can kind of Google around here for more information, because this is a long topic and I don't want to spend more time on it. But basically, Vortex Shield is the best base for Exile, and Sacred Charge is the best for probably all other bases, like even a Spirit Shield and so forth. So with that little debate out of the way, let's move on with some easier gear. This Gulliam's Face here, you can consider having like different Gulliam's Face socketed for different situations. Like this one has 15% increased attack speed with 15 resistance duel. That can be a good thing if you can't really get Fanatism or that high and you don't have increased attack speed on your gloves. Then I can also mention like Gore Rider's Boot. You can go with even upgraded ones that gives you a lot more defense, so that's an option if you are for whatever reason fine with having less life, kind of like me, and you're putting remaining points into strength. So yeah, I wanted to mention that getting Gore Riders upgraded are the best in my case. And then laying of hands, they are always extremely good to have as stash items. No point to really talk about it. They just give a huge amount of damage and they are always good to consider. Then a Call to Arms, Nosferatu belt for like, again, attack speed setups. This is definitely a usable build on this Paladin build. Fortitude for even more damage, kind of like resistance, life, etc. I just like to use Enigma in general for PvM, so I don't really prefer Fortitude. However, Fortitude does give a crazy amount of defense, so if you're not really gonna teleport, maybe you're just carrying people like Charismons, etc. Laying of Hands plus Fortitude, those two items just makes the damage so incredibly high, it's almost laughable, which makes you able to kind of boost people in players 8 on Chaos. Vadungus is also a build that I don't really, a lot of people are just gonna default to this one and say this is the best build, or the best build even, but I don't really agree on that, but more builds later. And yeah, and then just like a Metal Grid, yeah, it's really great for carrying resistance, amazing amount of attack, range, defense. This is a safety amulet. A lot of people would say this is totally crap amulet, but no, this is legit one of the best Paladin, Zealot Paladin's amulets you can get. Definitely don't disregard this one as a choice. And then Hylos Wrath for attack speed and yeah, the stats it gives for damage. But that's it for these stats items. Right then, time for the gear, the important part. As always, that's gonna be time descriptions below that you can just click around to kind of hover around and so forth if it's going to be too long. But like as always, this is the part that takes the longest to get through, so let's begin. I want to start off with the gloves here, the controversial choice besides the build. Gloves, Dracult, everyone is just gonna default to that one, but I want to try to explain why I choose this over Dracult. We don't really need a life tap for general usage. You saw in the intro, if you jump back to the intro now, you saw that I was getting burned by like lightning souls, and I had those exploding little skeletons. That didn't kill me. Why can I live through that without life tap proc? It's just because I have a little bit of leech on one ring, and that's it. You don't really need more leech than that, and that is due to the crazy high physical damage that we do. So if you're not doing Ubers, if you're not doing crazy hard content, there's no need for life tap at all. You can easily survive with this Phoniex shield, and yeah, you don't have to use Exile shield or anything to survive in normal PvM game. Even like a player's 8, I would think. This is why we're going with these gloves. They give the best amount of stats that you can get on gloves. These are perfect roll gloves. The only thing it really needs is like maybe like a few more resistance, and that's it. These gloves would be technically extremely expensive and extremely hard to get, but they do come even on ladder. I see sometimes they even pop up on ladder before it resets. If you just want like a cheap gloves, you're obviously just gonna get like perhaps 9% crushing blow, and then like 12 strain, 12 dexterity, maybe only like a little bit of life and some resistance. Those gloves always cost like nothing. They get really crazy expensive, or they end up just costing nothing. But perfect stats like these are very hard to get, but they do spawn even on ladder. Obviously on non-ladder they are not that hard to get. You would probably be able to trade for them any day of the week. And then I wanted to kind of just cover the belt here, since this is another controversial choice. As I talked about in the stats attempts just before, these are the other belt choices that I would also go with. You could perhaps also just go with a stupid puck belt if you were playing on Europe non-ladder, but for the sake of this video, we are not gonna really talk about that one. Anywho, this is definitely the best choice for me. I get faster hit recovery together with my Gulliam's face, which is perfect. I get some amount of leech together with the ring, so that helps a little bit. Open wounds is always fun to kind of just stop mobs from healing themselves, together with open wounds on my gore riders here. I get good amount of defense. I get nice amount of strength. I get the cold resist that I needed to cap resistance off with. I get a crazy amount of life. Now this build here, 24% faster hit recovery, 3% life steal, 10 to open wounds. Those are kind of like the default stats that these belts have. The other stats are kind of just premium. They get expensive, sure, but if you get a build like this one that had maybe only like 30 life, a little less defense, maybe only 18 cold resist or something, this build would not have costed a lot. This is definitely not an expensive option at all. I would even think that like a perfect roll Verdungus, which people are still trading for to this day, it's very hard to get a perfect Verdungo. Such a build would be more expensive. So that's just a thing to keep in mind. And then I wanted to just cover the rings really fast. One here is just for leech. You don't really need anything more than this. You get some lightning resistance, you get some cold resistance, you get some life, you get some strength. That's perfect. And then you get a nice amount of mana leech and life leech. And this just defaults to one of the most, overpowered rings that you can get for this build. But you could also go with a Ravenfrost ring. That would make the capping of attack rating that much easier, because you need at least 10,000 attack rating to get that ultimate smooth PvM feel. So yeah, Ravenfrost ring or faster caster ring for the second slot, that's kind of like up to yourself. However, I want to note that getting resistance on these items here, that makes me able to even cap the resistance. I can just perhaps show it like this. So you see this ring here helps out a lot, or this ring helps out a lot. So yeah, shopping for good rings for this build is not easy, but you can't just ignore being able to cap resistance. That's a thing. And then up here the amulet, together with the faster cast rate ring here, I get a nice amount of attack rating. together also with my wizard spike and my spirit shield. I think I was able to get 125% faster cast speed when I switched, can't really remember now. But yeah, Armageddon's here, a modded little Armageddon here with some faster cast rate, some all resistance, life, dexterity, expensive amulet, sure, but if you can get a stuff, an expensive amulet, sure, but if you can get an amulet like this one, it just makes the build that much better. But it's up to your own budget. You know, a lot of people can also just settle with not really getting cap resistance, not that great amount of faster cast rate, and they still be just fine. Another option is also to consider stuff like metal grid to cap resistance really easily, get a crazy amount of attack rating as well, or using Highlight's Wrath if you were perhaps using Dracul's gloves or something like that. Yeah, that helps on capping attack speed, which I will talk about later on. And then quickly just here, Enigma Archon plate. It's important that you try to get this one in a light base, you know, a heavy base armor, that just means you run slower, so that's not a nice thing. Archon plate just, yeah, it's a good base to get an Enigma for, so go with an Archon plate. And then of course a Grief. You wanna try get the Grief as high as you can. This is the perfect Grief with 400 damage, 15% increased damage, and plus 3 to attack rating. You don't have to get such crazy base here, I just went with it because I could. So yeah, it's up to your own budget, but definitely go with the Grief. I don't want even gonna consider like a Last Wish, similar weapons, they're just not better. Grief is just so good damage, so you have to go with this one. And now settle in for the long one, the shield. This is going to be a bit long, but I will try to get through it. Exile is the defense shield, that is the Uber shield, that is the defensive, you know, all overkill shield that you want to use for like doing Ubers, having fun, just feeling immortal, joking around on player's 8 not being able to get killed. This is the shield to go with. The other shield is going to be a Phoniex Sacred Charge. The problem, however, with Phoniex, which also another commenter pointed out on my last video for the Javason guide, is that it comes with the stupid Firestorm proc, which I will just try to replicate now. So I will just drop the Health Forge torch here to kind of just, yeah, eliminate that proc as well, and you can see what I mean. So I go up here, and you can see all the fire on the ground now. That comes from the Phoniex shield. However, do you see the animation kind of stops when I get the proc? I'm kind of freezed into an animation when the Firestorm procs, so that means I'm actually doing less damage than I could because of the procs animation kind of just freezing my attack frames, which actually makes this shield kind of crappy. However, I can kind of live with it. The stats are amazing, 400% enhanced damage. That just means that this is the highest possible damage that I can get out of a shield. Another option, which I will throw up on the screen now, if I can try to find a good example of it, would be a rare shield. Those can be extremely hard to get and extremely expensive. A Phoniex Sacred Charge is just kind of like crazy damage, not that expensive, so that's why we are going with this one. However, if you can't deal with the Firestorm proc, which a lot of people can't, don't go with this one, and just always use either the rare shield or the Exile shield. So that's pretty much it for the gear. You know, a lot of controversial choices like the gloves, capping resistance, managing attack rating, and definitely the shields. It's hard to gear this one out, but I believe this setup that I'm going with right now, you know, using Phoniex Sacred Charge, stuff like that, this is the best setup that I could come up with. I would love feedback on this one, because there's still some choices that I would consider not to be the optimal, but for now this is the best that I could come up with. And since I'm able to also kind of just get these crazy jewelry, since this is tested offline, capping resistance was no problem. So then, with the gear out of the way, let's all just cover the inventory. It's pretty simple. Since again I'm testing this offline, I'm able to get these crazy sharp grand charms. Obviously these are very expensive when they're perfect stats. Even just one of these are crazy amount of attack rating for me. So this enables me to actually get 10,000 attack rating. And I can just quickly show what I mean with the inventory actually helping me. Without these sharp grand charms I'm below 8,000. It's that big a difference. Another thing I'm also using are free 2020s. If you wanted to get able to, you know, cap resistance more easily, and you could live with say 8,000 attack rating or something like that, You could also just go with some 25 small charms, you know, or some 1130 or some 11 free small charms. I will pop those up on the screen now what I'm talking about. But those small charms would help on capping resistance a lot if you're not able to get crazy resistance from the gear or and so forth. So yeah, there are some options here. But that's it for the inventory. Kinda, you know, kinda personal. So I wanted to kinda say that you shouldn't really worry about the inventory until you have all your final gear. That's kind of like how I would plan out the build if you were going to build it out and make it online. Right then, time for some gameplay. This is going to be on Players 8 since this is offline and I can do it like that. So yeah, this will be fun. I will also mention some keybinds first. I kind of just want to do that more in my videos lately. Obviously, Smite is amazing for, you know, bosses, Ubers, etc. Smite has no, you know, there's no chance to miss with Smite, so always keep it binded, even if you're not really gonna use it for most of the time. Zeal on W, and then I have, yeah, you know, I keep Holy Shield binded, I keep Charge binded. Salvation is also good to keep binded, and then just teleport, Fanatisma, Vigor, and that's about it. Pretty simple. Not many binds for sure. Yeah, but let's get going on this one. As you can see, this truly is on Players 8. My Merc can't even survive, so let's just cut it here, god damn it. Players 8 are so different from Player 1. Right, let's get going then. This was, yeah. Right then, let's get going. I'm gonna keep my Exile shield in my inventory if I can't survive with just leech alone. Honestly, I don't think I can, but let's see. As always, just feel free to look at my survival, you know. Am I surviving well enough? Am I dying, etc.? That's kind of like... yeah, and I am dying. So, already now I can tell that Players 8 is not really possible with just like a few percentage of leech. So, yeah. Bye bye Phoenix shield and hello Exile. I wanted to also just kind of mention the maximum defense now with Exile shield at 30,000. That's very nice to see. But yeah, with lifetap and stuff, I think we are gonna be fine now. However, the damage is also going to be quite a bit less, which I guess I could actually also just show now since we talked a lot about shields. So yeah, you can see that I get a lot more defense, but I lose a lot more damage. Phoenix shield has its place, but maybe not on Players 8. So let's take this pack up here. A lot of souls, but it's no problem. With lifetap, it's just too easy. Click, 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 click. So many clicks. That's kind of the thing with this build. You're going to be spamming the left button a lot. Another thing I also kind of wanted to talk a little about in the gameplay section is that why do I not make a Zealot Paladin before now? You know, this is almost 3-4 years ago since I made one last. And it's simply just because I find this build to be boring. It's kind of like the most recent Paladin build I did, sort of the Griswold Vengeance build. The Paladin just lacks AoE, and since I'm a very AoE speed centric kind of guy when I'm playing these games here, I'm not interested in this build. Zeal, yes, it does decent AoE for sure, but it's not enough AoE to make it like a good AoE build, and make it a good grind build, etc. Let's just check this pack out here. Death Lords, this is definitely going to be a bit of a hard pack here. There's even an elite here. Yeah, let's see if we can handle this one. Oh, and I should probably switch weapons. Sorry about that. Fun that I even survived decent enough with wrong weapons. But yeah, look at this one here. Even the elite dies really fast. Nice to see. As you can see, it can pretty much do player save without dying on with the Exile shield on. It's very comfortable, it's quite easy to play. I would say it's one of the more relaxed, enjoyable builds in that way. Because I talk a lot about where I kind of like simple builds. And this one is definitely, if not the most simple build in Diablo 2, it's one of them. I really don't switch a lot of keybinds around, so it's fun to see. On the topic of Players 8, I could probably also mention this is one of the best Players 8, you know, carrying builds. Melee builds have always been strong for players 8 due to crushing blow and all that stuff. But the Zealot Paladin build, the way I build it now, you know, gore riders, these crushing blow gloves, etc. It just makes it that much better for players 8. Wave 2. Look at the corpse, what the hell was that? It's completely bugged out. Do you see the corpse on the floor there? That's a fun little glitch. Anywho, as you can see here, wave 2, it just goes slow. I like AoE, that's simply it. Wave 3. So, Zeal is great when the pack is kinda together, you know, not really spread out. That's where Zeal really shines. You see, I'm able to kill this pack really fast. Wave 4. Wave 5. Another pack where they just kinda come to you. They don't really spread out a lot. It's nice. Makes me able to kill it that much faster. But still, it's a little slow. But again, this is also players 8, so yeah. I just wish, like for online, I wish we had the players command. That would be amazing, because then I could really test out my online builds compared to offline builds. I would love like an HD, you know, an HD resolution mod, whatever we are gonna get, maybe, to have the players command for online play. So then for Baal, I kinda just wanted to try Smite a little bit. I'm not really sure if Smite or Zeal is the best in this case. I suppose it's just nice with Smite always hitting, and then just relying on crushing blow, even if it's gonna do way less damage. But again, I'm not really sure. As you can see here now I'm on Zeal, and the health doesn't really drop faster. So it's hard to tell. I think I just wanna go with Smite to get a better crushing blow always on bosses. But it's nice to see, you know, again, this is players 8, Baal, a lot of health, and it's just gonna die fast. It's continuing taking down this health here. I think it's even gonna be fast at the last percentages, but let's see now. Yeah, even the last little bit of health was fast. It's just nice. And wow, Greaves, can this actually be gore riders? Ah, okay, it was tear hunts. But still, these boots are also an option to use on your Zealot Paladin. They are actually not that bad. Kinda like these boots as well, especially just for getting more resistance and stats. But that's about it. Don't want to make the video that much longer. It's really been, you know, fun to take a look at this one, cause you know, everyone is kind of like, oh, Hammer Paladin, a Zealot Paladin, these are such iconic builds. And I get that. They are just so known in the community for being one of the few builds that can do something specific. In the case of a Zealot Paladin, it's obviously doing Ubers. But even like something like a Kick Assassin is also a really good Uber machine, which a lot of people have explored in like the last, you know, 5-ish years or whatever. The Zealot is definitely not the only build that can do Ubers, that's for sure. So I think also that's kind of why this build has lost a lot of its, you know, pride and joy. Like, why are people even making this one if you don't really need it for Ubers anyways? So yeah, it's kind of fun to see where it's not as good as it maybe once was before, but it's still really good. I could also mention that it's one of the best solo builds if you're going to, you know, complete the game, normally play through it on like offline single player. I would think this is also one of the better builds, especially if you can get a source of lifetap, some leech, a decent weapon. That would definitely make it one of the better solo builds. So yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind if you're also kind of like into playing offline, trying to complete hell and everything. But that's about it. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, feel free to comment if you have any questions and so forth. Also, if you would like to have a look at another build that I could potentially do. It was fun to kind of just do the Yavason build that I recently did and this one. But that's about it. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.